Little is known about the story or technical specifications behind Desiree Dolron Xteriors series. For that reason, I've decided to focus on the whole of Xteriors as opposed to just one photo, though 6 would be my personal favorite. People have asked how she gets that particular look and how they can achieve it on their own. And even though it is called Xteriors, all the shots are mostly of women indoors. But I believe the point of this is to look at the realistic but painterly surface perfection of the subjects depicted. The exteriors we choose to show to others, or maybe the idealized version we would wish to convey. Each image features near textureless porcelain skin and a distinct lack of eyeshadow, lipstick, or any discernible makeup to embellish the face. The low-key lighting where no highlight is blown out makes it hard to place just what kind of lighting it is. Typically, you can look at the eye to see if it's been lit by a softbox, strip light, window light, etc. But in Xteriors 6, there is little to no indication of lighting type, leading one to believe it's only being lit via window or some far-off ambient light source. There's an indication of a little bead of catchlight in the eye, which almost betrays the viewer in what they're seeing. This soft lighting creates an almost painterly effect. The clothing is perfect and without wrinkle to be found. There isn't a hair out of place. In fact, the hair seems abnormally perfect. The color toning is muted and drab, and personally makes me think that these people are being visualized in a land created by Frank Herbert. Dolron has said that this particular body of work is based on a recurring dream about an early childhood experience and is based on a continuous study of time, of being and not being. It's based on a story buitenkanten, meaning exteriors in Dutch, which Dolron wrote as a young girl. Each model sitting for Dolron had read this to better understand their story and how to immerse themselves in their role and environment. But Exteriors isn't about the narrative, rather than the mysteriousness and subtle disorienting effect each image imprints upon the viewer's mind. It's more influenced by the subject of representation and image making in a historical context. She has said, every square millimeter of my image is digitally manipulated, not just the skin tones, but also the facial features themselves. In some cases, I combine features from several faces to obtain what I pictured in my mind's eye. Exteriors being the first project where I became serious about digital manipulation, it took me a good 3 years to finish all the images. The images within her Exteriors book were shot in an 18th century mansion in Utrecht with models dressed in specifically designed historical replica outfits. In preparation for these shots, Dolron wandered through the house for days. She created sketches of scenes from the available areas and used the models to fill in the spaces. One image from the series could be composed of up to 20 negatives requiring extreme long exposure times. The models in this work appear anonymous, with a hint of harkening back to the works of Johannes Vermeer and the Flemish school of portrait painters such as Petrus Christus, Roger van der Weyden, and the interior Danish painter Wilhelm Himmershoy. Though in the modern age, Dolron uses state-of-the-art technology to achieve her desired final result. It's a complex arrangement, and like a painter, Dolron moves and mixes the objects within the frame by adding and changing elements around, altering the appearance, mixing in elements of other models, and bringing in aspects from other models she shot to complete her private dream of the final image. For over 30 years, the Dutch photographer and digital artist has amassed a diverse and eclectic body of work, ranging widely in method, form, and focus. Having dropped out of school at 16 to travel the world, her photography passion led her to New York, where she worked as a photographer's assistant. She's worked as a photojournalist, documentary photographer, commercial artist, and has recently started work in video, touching on themes such as the passing of time and the intrinsic transience of nature and environmental degradation. For years, Dolron worked on the road, leading her to document the extremes of religious belief, but she also has spent years in a studio working solely on one project, meticulously perfecting what she wanted to create and fine-tune both her analog and digital process along with the printing process. She was granted permission by the imams and military police in Pakistan to access and photograph the local mosques, despite the women being kept concealed behind curtains. She spent decades traveling, documenting everything from the tribes on the Afghan border where women were not allowed to go outside, to the indomitable Romani nomads in Pakistan, to photographing the drag queens of Wigstock Drag Festival in New York and watching S&M club performers hang themselves from hooks through their skin. The images in the Xteriors series depicts mostly women wandering within some wealthy estate out of time and place. The images look both ancient and modern simultaneously. In one photo, we see the body of a young boy being handled by a woman possessing a belly button ring. Seeing as how everything in this series is so meticulously arranged and edited, it's not a mistake that this modern fashion item remained in the shot. The same can be said about the style of dress designed for these shots, which displays the outlines and appearance of the breasts from below. In one image, a woman appears to be fashioning Viking dreadlocks. This marriage between a clean modern aesthetic with old or vintage taste is what places these images in an otherworldly category. When researching this series, it was difficult to find any hint of revelation in her process of making these complete. Of course, there's only speculation from the site of Photoshop and photography experts online. I've personally examined these images with a magnifying glass to find hints at what is captured in camera and what is post-processing technique. There are areas in a photo or two where I can see the cloning of one area into another, and I'm not quite sure what level of importance is put into the long exposure speed aspect of these images. When doing a long exposure photograph, it's typically to create motion lines and a double exposure effect. These images are sharp in detail but soft and light, so maybe it has more to do with the particular style of lighting she's using. I've talked a little bit about Dolron's past work for a reason. Once she was photographed with children holding AK-47 rifles and was asked if this was a strange encounter. Her answer speaks to not only the differences in cultures and upbringings, but to the choices artists make in their lives as well. Quote, "That's always the scary thing with photography. It never tells the true story. You can shoot something from one angle, and it can be a totally different situation from another side.